Hey guys, what's up? This is Adam here. I can't see the guy. Welcome to the Movie Vault. Carrying on with some more Disney movie reviews. And I'm really enjoying this playlist at the moment, everybody. Reviewing all these Disney movies. I've got all my subscribers and all my fans on YouTube. Keep on sending me requests in. Some requests may get answered, and I might do reviews on some of your requests. But if I don't, please don't take it to heart because I'm still a busy guy with a full-time job and running a business. So all I'm saying is please bear with me, but you never know, requests might get granted one day. But for now, I want to talk about 101 Dalmatians, which came out in the year of 1961. Now, 101 Dalmatians is a Disney film that I fell in love with when I was a kid, and I saw it plenty of times. I fell in love with it up to the point where when I was a kid, I had a duvet of 101 Dalmatians. I had a sing-along cassette tape, which my parents used to play in the car when I was very little, singing along to the songs like the Cruella de Vil song and the Dalmatian Plantation song. And I used to have this storybook as well of Pongo telling the story about 101 Dalmatians, and he was the narrator. And I used to read along in the book, while Pongo would talk on the radio, and I would sing along to the songs. God, how old would I be? I'd be about 5 or 6 years old. So loads of great memories of 101 Dalmatians. And like I say, it's one I fell in love with when I was a kid. Fell in love with all the characters. You got Pongo, who plays the male Dalmatian. You got Perdita or Purdy, who plays his partner. He's the female Dalmatian. And of course, you've got the lovable Dalmatian puppies like Patch, who's got a patch for an eye. You've got Rolly, who's overweight and likes to eat. Of course, you've got Freckles. He doesn't really have much of a role, but he's mentioned 1 or 2 times. And of course, you've got Lucky, who was a dog who passed away but rose from the dead. You know what I mean? So, brought back to life by Roger when he's rubbing the puppy and they name him Lucky. So, all these beloved puppies have their own personalities, and when I first watched this 101 Dalmatians for the first time, when they had introduced 15 of the puppies, I was like, why does it say the title say 101 Dalmatians? There's only 15 puppies, so plus you're adding Pongo and Perdita, that's 17 Dalmatians. You know what I mean? So if you could say, how come the title says 101 Dalmatians? That's weird, but that was the first time I watched 101 Dalmatians. Now, before I get into this, I have seen the live action 101 Dalmatians film. But I think I've only seen it once when it first came out in theatres, and I can barely remember it. I know there's a sequel to this cartoon, this 101 Dalmatians, where Cruella de Vil returns with Horace and Jasper after escaping from prison or something like that. But I've only seen parts of that movie, so I can't really tell you how I really feel about that because I've not seen I've not seen it all the way through. I know Thunderbolt, the Wonder Dog, the dog who the puppies idolise on television, had more of a bigger role, in that film. But again, never saw it. Hopefully one day I'll get the chance to see it. But this one, 101 Dalmatians, the film opens up with the male dog Pongo and his owner, Roger. Roger's a musician. He spends all day writing songs on the piano. And Pongo is basically bored in the flat. And he's unhappy with the lifestyle that him and Roger are living. Although he's a kind and devoted owner and takes Pongo for a walk every day in the park, he feels like the life that he's leading are dull. So he basically wants to get him and his owner laid, basically. But, they don't say that. They don't say Pongo's out to get laid or anything. But he's looking for partners for him and Roger by looking at the window and seeing all these different people with their personality dogs, like a French poodle who's far too fancy. You get some dogs that are too old, too young. But then he spots Anita and her female dog Purdy walking along in the street. And Pongo straight away says that's a perfect match for me and my owner Roger. So he alters the clock on the wall for 5 o'clock and they go for a walk in the park. Pongo gets up to mischief, but he formulates a plan to try and get him and Anita to meet, and eventually they do. They end up falling into a lake and a pond, and they end up falling in love. And so does Pongo and Perdita, and they eventually get married. Okay, the lifestyle is then living differently. They've got a housekeeper called Nanny who looks after the house. And at the same time, we learn that Perdita's expecting some puppies. And not long after that, we get introduced to the villain of the film, Cruella de Vil. Now, Cruella de Vil is a very unique villain. When you look closely at her face, she looks like a scarecrow. You know, she's got these points on her cheeks, and she's very skinny. But the way the character just throws herself around the house, you know, when she enters the home, you know, she's just wandering around the house saying, "Where are the puppies? Where are the puppies?" She's wearing expensive fur coats. And she's only got one intention in mind, and that's to take the Dalmatian puppies when they're born because she wants a Dalmatian fur coat with spots. Now, this movie, just like all the other Disney movies I mentioned, has its dark moments. You know, that's what I liked about these Disney films back in the day when they were coming out in the 90s and all that. They all had their dark moments. They had the moments when they were serious, they had the moments when they was cute. And this movie, 101 Dalmatians, has a mixture of all of that. There's times where it's cute, you know, when you got all the puppies. There's a serious times, you know, when Pong and Petita are trying to rescue the puppies. But dark moment when you think about it, because the puppies get stolen by Horace and Jasper, so thieving's involved. And the thieving takes place for one reason only, because Cruella wants to kill the puppies, skin them, and wear their fur as a coat. So when you think about it, that's really dark. I mean, it's animal cruelty at the end of the day, you know. So these Disney films have their times of magic about being very cruel and very wicked and very dark. Like I mentioned before in the previous Disney movies, like whether it's an evil witch trying to poison Snow White with an apple, whether it's a dress ripping scene with the ugly sisters rip Cinderella's dress and things like that. So you get what I mean. They have their dark, cruel moments, and 101 Dalmatians also shares it in the same category, which is great because today's Disney films don't hold the same torch, and it's just not the same, you know. But basically, that's what happens. Cruella's henchmen, Horace and Jasper, they pretend they're from the electric company. They burst into the house and to get past Nanny while Pongo and Perdita are out for a walk. They steal all the puppies, and then basically Pongo and Perdita are on one big mission to try and save the puppies. And they go all the way to Suffolk, where they're located, to get them. But they begin the twilight bark, where all the other dogs in the city are alerted. You know, one bark leads to another, and that was a nice scene. I could be wrong about this scene, but is there a scene in this where the characters from Lady and the Tramp appear? Because I noticed when they do the twilight bark, that dog Jack from Lady and the Tramp alerts another dog, and then there's a pet store which shows the bulldog and that other dog that sings, "He's a tramp, but I love him." I've noticed they appear in the pet shop, you know, so that was kind of a nice touch, seeing like a little bit of a scene of the characters from Lady and the Tramp in it, you know, so that was a nice touch. So basically, Pongo and Perdita are like a one big mission trying to save the puppies. Now, we get introduced to these other characters. We get introduced to Sergeant Tibbs, who's a cat, Captain, a horse, and Colonel, who's an old sheepdog. Now, this is what's interesting about these three characters. They play a massive big role in this film. If it wasn't for these three characters, Pongo and Perdita would not have found the puppies. So, especially Sergeant Tibbs, because Sergeant Tibbs locates the puppies at an old mansion in Suffolk where the 15 puppies are being held. And if it wasn't for this character, they wouldn't have found the puppies. But what's so sad about the Sergeant Tibbs character is that he's like the main star of the film, if you get what I mean. And he's only like used for a certain amount of time in this film. And I'll get to that in just a moment, because he locates the 15 puppies and learns that there's 99 more puppies at the mansion. And when he hears about Pongo and Perdita trying to save the puppies, he locates them to the mansion where they can get rescued. But by the time Corella's getting impatient because of the police and the press. And the puppies manage to escape with Sergeant Tibbs' help, you know, just before Horace and Jasper are ready to kill and skin them. And basically Pongo and Purdy and the 99 puppies are on one big mission to get back to London safely. Now, what's so sad about this is that Sergeant Tibbs is like a hero in this movie. But if you notice, he's not given much screen time because when Pongo and Purdy leave the barn where the puppies are staying, Sergeant Tibbs, Colonel the horse, and the Colonel, sorry, are never heard from again. And I really wish they somehow could have been part of the celebration of the puppies when they get back home safely at the end of the film. But no, they're not seen or mentioned ever again. So I thought to myself, that's a little bit of a waste. That's the only thing that got me down about the film a little bit. The help from the main hero, Sergeant Tibbs, and the cat, and the Captain the horse, and the Colonel. They use a small role in trying to help Pong and Purdy with the puppies, but they play a big role in that department, but they're never seen or heard of ever again from that one scene. And that's kind of sad. But I really kind of wish, especially Sergeant Tibbs the cat, would have had more of a role, because he puts his neck on the line when he goes into the mansion because Horace and Jasper throw objects at him. He's trying to protect the puppies, preparing to take the first hit when he's trying to protect them. So he plays like a little bit of an important role, but it wasn't important enough for him to be used somewhat at the end or something like that. It was just for this short scene. So that was a bit sad. But the film from there gets intense. There's a scene where Pongo and Purdy disguise themselves in soot to look like Labradors. They load the puppies onto the back of this truck, that truck that's going on its way to London for a ride home. And basically it's one big car chase with Cruella, Horace and Jasper chasing after the puppies. Cruella becomes really desperate to try and capture the puppies. She loses her mind, she crashes a car. And basically they get back safely because Horace and Jasper crash into Cruella and there's a car wreck. And Cruella and Horace and Jasper get left behind, basically, in the snow. And we never hear from them until the sequel. But they get back home safely, and they do one big count of the puppies, including Pong and Peter, and that makes 101 Dalmatians. And the film is a happy ending with Roger singing Dalmatian Plantation on the piano just before the credits roll. And that's your movie. So overall, it's an enjoyable film. Like I say, I usually watch these movies before reviewing them, and I did. I watched 101 Dalmatians just a moment ago. It was like going back in time being a child again, reliving those great moments where I fell in love with the characters. I'll probably have to say Patch is my favourite puppy at the 101 Dalmatians because he's like a go-getter. Especially that scene, where... Well, the scenes where he's trying to act tough and dangerous and he wants to be a big, brave dog like his dad, but he freaks out when danger encounters him, Like the scene, where Pongo is battling Jasper and Jasper gives him an evil look and he ends up going, he freaks out and starts barking, So he was an interesting character. Like I say, you got Rolly who eats all the time, he's always asking for food. You got Lucky, who's the luckiest one out of the puppies because he was brought back to life by Roger when he was died at birth. So it was nice to see this movie again. It was nice to see this movie again. And after seeing this movie, I kind of really want to watch the sequel. Where we find out what happened to Cruella and Horace and Jasper. How Thunderbolt the Wonder Dog on TV becomes like a regular character. So it'd be kind of interesting to see where it goes. I really must check them out one day, and if I do, I'll definitely do a review on it. But 101 Dalmatians, it's one movie that I do recommend for all Disney fans, and all members of the family also. Not just the kids will enjoy it, but the adults also. It's a cute story. Like I say, it has its moments of cuteness, it has its moments of intense, its dark moments. So it does have its mixture of little moments, where it's all mixed together in one for this family film, and I think they pulled it off really, really, really well, So 101 Dalmatians, like I said, it was one that I fell in love with when I was a kid, and I just remember having the cassette tape, the duvet of the puppies, and having teddy bears of all the puppies, because I used to collect the teddy bears when I was like a little kid. So it was a kind of a nice touch, and it was nice to relive that moment again. Okay, and I'm going to wrap this review up now, everybody. For the person who requested this, I'm not going to say who he is because in case he doesn't want his YouTuber name public. But he knows what I'm talking about. He requested this 101 Dalmatians. Thanks for sending that request in because I really enjoyed reliving the great time. So thanks for your review, and I hope you've enjoyed this review, everybody. Please like, rate, and comment, and email if you've got any questions, and please leave a comment below. Thanks, everybody. Peace out.